Compared to the aestheticism and romance of Italian folk songs, the folk songs of China's Great Northwest are like the torrential waters of the Yellow River and the boundless sonorous and deepless plateau. I was very young when I first heard this northern Shanqi folk song. Today I am going to visit the person who sang this song back then to explore the mystery of northern Shanqi folk songs.
王老师您好，哎呀，特别荣幸能够见到您。那这些民歌是什么时候产生的呢？
在这一块土地有了人类，就应该有了歌。陕北民歌它是渊源很深的，黄河流域它是人类最早的发祥地之一嘛。
看到黄土高坡非常震撼哈。这里一个几字形呢，就是我们的母亲河黄河。 陕北的民歌就是分布在它的周围。
因为我们都在陕北这一块土地生存，所以这与我们那个周围的环境是有很大关系。
家里人啊，周围的邻居。
推碾子有推碾子的歌
啊，推碾子的歌也有，劳动号子啊。
落落地路，哎，我会手吧。来来来来来来，
小狗仔，妹。
People are shaped by the land around them. To me, northern Shanqi folk songs give vocal life to the social patterns of farming civilization and aspirations for the good life. True feelings and unaffected expression reflect the nature of northern Shanqi people. With their unique style, northern Shanqi folk songs narrate the stories of the Lus Plateau on stage in today's Xi'an. Like the Blue Sea, which gave birth to Italian folk songs, the Lus Plateau created northern Shanqi folk songs. Together, they have formed an ocean of folk songs from humankind, a chorus of souls from east and west. Strolling along the streets of Rome, the beautiful architecture and sculptures encourage me to linger. But it's these enthusiastic buskers who really mesmerize me. Their charm affects everyone around them. The stages of folk artists are all around us. Their superb artistic expressiveness is equal to that of professional stage performers, and each is immersed in his or her own performance. The way this music culture exists can be considered one of Rome's scenic features. The saying that common folk are the real experts springs to mind. Rome and Xi'an provide fertile ground for folk art. Modern Xi'an is ancient but has no shortage of fashion sense, and this millennia-old capital sparkles with all the charm of an international capital. Like Rome, folk art in Xi'an was also an eye-opening experience for me. I attended a special performance here, and if I hadn't seen their breathtaking performance on stage, I would never have thought that these elderly people had anything to do with music. The accompanying instruments were made up of benches and bells, and in their voices I could sense the strong affection these folk artists have for this land. What are they singing? Where did this performing method come from?
张老师，你好，这就是我们的黄岩老乡张喜林张老师。
哎呀，太高兴能够来看大家的排练。大部分演出都在西安吗？
那西安也演的比较多点，基本他们国家的省啊，基本都去了。
全国都走遍了。
那基本再一个就是60年的，跟澳大利亚、新加坡还有台湾的、香港、澳门这么地方基本都去了。
太了不起了。
你看我72了，这都72了。
哦，70多了。
这75。
哇！
最小的65，没有年轻的。
演奏和演唱都是中气十足的，
再一个
非常有力量。
我们是华人芳山乡人，希望你到我们曲子那边转一转。因为芳山村呢，是老乡的发源地。
Towering Mount Hua, the western peak of China's 5 sacred Taoist mountains, is one of the cradles of Chinese civilization, and at its foot is Huaiyin County, the birthplace of Lao Qiang. The first time I set foot on this land, I could feel a boldness and sincerity here. It also made me more curious about Lao Qiang, which originated in this place.
这村可能没有来过吧？
没来过双泉村。
对，这过去。
These elderly artists are actually farmers. Their unaffected performance springs from this land. These elderly artists don't read scores. Their art is passed down through the generations as an oral tradition. Among local folk in Shanxi, this art has been handed down for a millennium. The stage of Lao Qiang artists is actually shadow puppet plays, which have existed for more than 2,000 years. I've only now discovered that Lao Qiang singing is in fact exactly the same as the one I've heard in shadow puppet plays. Through the ages and in folk communities, shadow puppet plays were like movies today, and of course highly popular. Historical stories are vividly brought to life by artists. And behind the scenes, they employ a raft of techniques to lively effect. Traditional opera singing, dialogue, acting, and acrobatics have become special techniques behind Huaiyin Lao Qiang storytelling. Today, Lao Qiang has moved from backstage to the forefront, with people calling it the rock and roll of the Lost Plateau. It is thanks to these folk artists and their superb skills that we are afforded a glimpse of another world. This Chinese folk song, Jasmine, is well known in China. 100 years ago, Italian composer Puccini wrote what was considered the opera of the century, Turandot, based on this Chinese folk song. Since then, Jasmine has been continuously sung around the world. Puccini is one of the greatest composers of the 20th century. His magnum opus Turandot is not only beloved by Western audiences, the Chinese are also very familiar with it. I've always been very curious about Puccini's story. This composer never went to China. So why was it he employed opera to tell a Chinese story to the world? To solve this mystery, I visited Puccini's hometown, Lucca. With a population of 80,000, this little city attracts 800,000 people each year, people who, like me, come to visit their idol.
Puccini rappresenta l'elemento più importante della nostra tradizione lucchese, quindi è un grande veicolo di notorietà per la nostra città.
This is Puccini's former residence and the place where he was born. I not only saw his manuscripts here, I also got to see the theater costume worn by the princess in the 1926 premiere of Turandot. Overflowing with Chinese charm, this floor-length dress can still be considered an exquisite work of art a century later. What I'm mystified about is that Puccini spent most of his life in this tiny city. So how did Jasmine, a folk song from faraway China, find its way into his world more than a century ago? I found an unexpected answer here. One day, a friend who returned from China gave Puccini a music box. The first time he heard the melody of Jasmine, Puccini immediately developed a profound interest in the mysteries of China. It was precisely this beautiful Chinese melody that led to the birth of a great opera. Although Puccini had never been to China, the Oriental stories in 1001 Nights by French author Delacroix stimulated his fantasies of ancient China. Hence, Turandot, the Chinese princess in the story, became the main character of the opera, and Jasmine became its principal melody. Adapted from Jasmine, the melody appears 5 times in the entire opera, gradually propelling the story toward its climax. Dreamed up by Puccini's imagination, this Chinese story tells of a foreign prince who fell in love with a haughty princess Turandot and pursued her as a suitor. The prince had to overcome multiple dangerous obstacles and eventually won the princess's heart with wisdom and love. Over 200 years old, this theater was once Puccini's second home. Back in those days, Puccini would watch rehearsals of his operas from this grandstand. Regrettably, while on the verge of completing Turandot, to which he dedicated his life, Puccini died of illness. Although Puccini never saw Turandot being performed, his outstanding musical talent fashioned a Chinese and Italian music legend based simply on the Chinese song Jasmine. Enduring and unfading, Nessun Dorma, the aria in the opera, is also acclaimed as a classic by singers the world over. Today, the melody of Jasmine in the opera Turandot has also taken root in the hearts of the Chinese. Every time I sing this song, I am reminded of this unforgettable Italian musical journey.